Okay, so the recording has started and I will share the content and promptly begin with the lecture. So I hope you can see the whiteboard. So previous class we had discussed the common emitter configuration and in some details. So we have so we would be in further lectures, in some of these lectures we would be actually doing similar sort of analysis as we had done for the common emitter configuration. So you should try, at the back of the mind, you should try to develop the understanding of what we are doing common in all these different circuits. So the common thing that we are doing, I will also highlight that, but from your own part also you should try to develop that understanding or intuition that how we are approaching the circuit step by step, and what are the different parameters, or what are the different variables for which we are solving the circuit. So first, normally what we do, we try to figure out what the base current is for any circuit, for any configuration, for any BJT configuration. We try to find out what is the base current, and then we try to find out what is the collector current and the VCE voltage. So these three things actually we try to get. Okay, so for any configuration we will do this. So from your end you have to be familiar with solving the different networks. So here there is an input loop and an output loop. So you have to only apply the loop equations, which are the KVL and the KCL. All these equations you have to apply, and you will be able to solve these circuits, all these circuits, on your own only. Okay, so because you know how to solve these circuits. I am, for my own part, just for the sake of the completion of syllabus and showing you what the different modes of connections could be there for transistor, which are more popular. There could be many other modes, so not everything can be covered in the book. Any random network can be set up and you may be asked to solve that. So your tool to solve the network are the fundamental equations of KVL and KCL. So please bear that in mind. The fundamental equations of KVL and KCL are there with you. So those are the only things that we use to solve any circuit. Along with that, we need to have some properties of this particular device that we are working with. In this case, this is a transistor, and the property of the transistor is that the collector current is a certain number of times the base current. We will see that there are three different currents: base current, collector current, and emitter current, and there is a relationship between these three, and this is set by the device. This is a relationship which is set by the device manufacturer, and this will be given to you when you are trying to solve the circuit. From this sort of relationship only the characteristic curves appear, which we saw. These characteristic curves, this we saw. So this is the device characteristics, and we know that we can also have a load line, which is the network characteristic. So the network characteristic can be imposed on the device characteristics, and we can get the operating point. So this is the case, this is the thing. The operating point we can obtain when we impose the load line with the transistor characteristic. Now for different configurations we will see. So this is common to every configuration. So the collector curves which we saw, collector curves means the output characteristic curves. This will be same for all the transistors, no matter what sort of configuration they are in, because this is nothing but IC versus VC. This depends only on the transistor. IC is the current, collector current, VC is the collector to emitter voltage. These are parameters of the transistor only. So no matter in which circuit you have placed, in whatever configuration you have placed, the collector characteristics or the output characteristics of the transistor will remain the same. Now the network will impose a load line on top of it. The network will impose a load line on top of it, and with the intersection of the load line and the collector characteristics will give you the Q point. So this would be same for this sort of thing will be same for all the configurations. But what is different in different configurations? You will see that this nature of the Q point, whether it is quite stable or it is varying in nature, so it is very sensitive. So this sort of differences will come up. So these are differences which come up after you have solved the circuit. So you have found out all the different parameters and variables. After that you can have some comment on the different currents and voltages of the Q points. What sort of are they very stable in nature, are they varying in nature, what in what particular use we employ the given configuration. So these sort of things will come later, these sort of questions come later, but first we have to always solve the circuit, and solving the circuit is always using the very simple KVL and KCL. So please notice this while I proceed, I go ahead, please notice this. So observe this thing. So there is nothing to be afraid of electronics. So you have the KVL and KCL with you, and some device specific information you have to employ. That's all. That's all that is there in electronic circuits. So I will move ahead from here. So we saw that in common emitter configuration, one thing you can remember are the different configuration circuits. So in common emitter, how does it look? Okay, normally, like, it is not like I don't particularly have I don't prefer to give you a question which you have to answer based on memory, but somewhere you might be given a question like this, that there is a common emitter configuration with RB and RC as these values, so please solve. Now you have not been given the circuit, so you have to remember what was the common emitter configuration. Okay, I am not of the nature of giving questions where you have to base your answer on memory. So probably I will give the circuit and ask you to solve the circuit. So that is the thing actually you have to do. So once you are given the circuit, you have to solve the circuit. So that solving, whether you are able to do it, that is what one needs to check actually. But in many cases, in some papers or somewhere down your life, you may face this situation. So you also try to remember these configurations, and there is some way to remember these configurations also. I will try to point that those things also while I go ahead, but let us move further. So common emitter configuration we have discussed. So I hope everything is fine there, and what we have noticed is that the Q point is very sensitive to input any changes in the network. The Q point is sensitive to changes. Why? Because the IC, the current, output current IC, and the IC and the VCE, these are the IC and VCE, this is the Q point, right? The particular operating current IC and the particular operating VCE voltage, that is the Q point. So these are very sensitive to input changes because the IC is some beta times IB. So when the IB changes a bit, IC changes 50 times of that. So there is a huge change in the IC, and correspondingly VCE will also change, because VCE is nothing but this voltage minus ICRC, right? VC is nothing but the VCC minus ICRC. So VCE will also change. So there is a large deviation in the Q point. So when can we expect a stable Q point? Of course, the answer is simple, that when we will find that the configuration is such that IC is not showing dependence on IB, the change in IB, then in that configuration we can say that the Q point is stable. Okay, let's see whether there exists such a configuration. Actually the next configuration is such that is actually exactly like that, and we will go to that configuration. Before that, I just want to mention that we also discussed this very important analysis, to understand whether a given network, in a given network, the transistor is in saturation or active region. Whether the transistor is in saturation or active region, this is very important. Many times you may be asked this question. So here what we do, we know that in saturation the VC is 0, almost 0. It is not exactly 0 because the 0 is in this vertical line, but and the saturation is this particular line, but we can approximate it to be 0. So what we do, we find out the saturation current by making VC is 0. Then the saturation current is nothing but this voltage divided by this resistance, and we find out that there is some current IC. So if this IC that we have found out is less than the IC in the active region for the particular IB, so this a particular IB is there, which we can always calculate from the input loop, from the base loop we can calculate the IB. So beta times that IB is the active region's IC, beta times IB is the collector current in the active region. If your IC, when you have even a mental short like this, comes out to be less than that, that means we are in the saturation region. That means we are in the saturation region. So that is one way to determine. So here I think here we have done the analysis in this area, and another way to determine is this, that we assume that it is in the active region. So when we assume it is in the active region, we first calculate IB, then calculate IC, and then try to calculate VCE. So if VCE comes out to be less than 0, then of course our assumption is wrong, because in active region VCE is always positive. So since our beginning assumption is wrong, it is not in active region, it is in saturation region. It is in saturation region. Cutoff we are not explaining, because in cutoff what happens, in cutoff there is no current IC. So that is actually cutoff is actually made by making this voltage in the this VBB voltage. This is normally this is bias is forward bias. This BE junction is forward bias. If we make this reverse bias, then the cutoff region comes. If you notice, if you notice in the output characteristic, this is the cutoff region. In the cutoff region, what is happening? In the cutoff region, IC is 0. Okay, IC is 0. So IC is 0 or lesser. IC is 0 or lesser. So this situation can only happen when there is no IB, and no IB can happen only when the BE junction is reverse biased. BE junction is reverse biased. That is what we have to do. We have to reverse bias this potential, this voltage. This voltage we have to set up in such a way that BE is reverse biased. Okay. So this is forward biased. If we change the polarities, it will become reverse biased. So cutoff identification is very easy, but whether the transistor is in active region or saturation region, that requires some analysis. Now another point I had mentioned, that there are two things. One is the hard saturation and another is a transistor switch. Hard saturation means we wish that the transistor or the network operates in saturation region. we have to enforce this condition. How to enforce this condition? We have to employ the circuit, or we have to choose the circuit parameters in such a way that beta is near about 10. Beta is near about 10. This beta is not the beta of the manufacturer. Beta is just the gain. So maybe it is not good to write beta here. We can write this as the gain, IC by IB, nearly 10, because beta given from the manufacturer is around 50 or 100. Now if you can set up the circuit in such a way that the IC flowing in the output is about 10 times the IB in the input, then of course your transistor is working in the saturation region. It is of course working in the saturation region, because it is much less than the gain for which the transistor will work in the active region. Okay. How to ensure that? We can ensure that by, because we have a handle on these particular things. All these things we choose for the circuit. So we choose in such a way that IC by IB is almost 10 is almost equal to 10, this gain. How to do that? Normally this is the situation. You see that the base resistance is 10 times the collector resistance, load resistance, or the collector resistance, RC. So normally you will see that this is the situation in which the transistor operates in the saturation region, and these two voltages can normally be kept same. When this happens, suppose these two are same, consider these two are same voltages, then for the analysis where when it is saturation current, so what would be the saturation current? It would be this voltage divided by this resistance, and the base current would be this voltage divided by this resistance. If the voltages are same and this resistance is 10 times this one, then of course this current will be 10 times this one, and then we achieve this hard saturation sort of thing. Hard saturation we can achieve. So this is the rough analysis, approximate analysis. Of course I have not considered VBE because it is too small. So if we operate in hard saturation, then we can use the transistor as a switch, because whenever we make this VBB polarity in this manner, that VB is forward biased, then it is in the saturation region, and if we make it reverse biased by changing the polarity or making it 0, then this is in cutoff region. So you see what will happen at that time. So it is very important to note what happens. Note the current IC in the output side. So the output is getting a current when we have a positive voltage in the input side. So there is some output current delivered by the transistor. So the load circuit has a current through it. When we have 0 voltage in the input side, the load circuit also is 0 current. That means the load circuit is cut off, as if the load circuit becomes cut off. So it acts like a switch for the load circuit. By regulating or by changing the input side voltage, this voltage you have with you, so you can, it is like an electrical switch for the output circuit. It behaves as an electrical switch for the output circuit. So this is a switch which is connected with this output circuit. The output circuit is triggered by this voltage VCC, it is trying to activate the load, but there is a switch here along with this in series, and this switch is on only when the input voltage to this switch is positive. This is, of course, I am talking about NPN transistor. So if it is PNP transistor, it would be simply the opposite things. Okay. So for NPN transistor, the input voltage should be positive, then this switch is closed and there would be a current in this circuit, in the output circuit. When this voltage is drops to 0, or we remove the voltage, or we make this voltage negative also, then there is no current in the output and the transistor behaves as an open switch in that case. So this is the transistor switch. This is how the transistor works as a switch. Okay. So in the common emitter mode, in common emitter, this common emitter configuration is usually used for, or mostly used for, switching operations of transistor. Why? Because we in the active region, it is not very stable operation. We already saw in the active region the Q point will vary drastically with small changes in the input. So the active region is not stable, but saturation and cutoff is quite stable. We don't need to worry about that. Saturation and cutoff is very stable. So we work the common emitter configuration. We use that common emitter configuration to for this sort of transistor switching, transistor switch cases, to employ the transistor as a electronic switch. So this is the utility of common emitter configuration. Now we come to the next configuration, which is the common base configuration, also called the emitter bias. So the common base configuration looks like this. I will show you the common emitter configuration once. Notice similarities and differences. This is the common emitter configuration. Notice which terminal. There are 3 terminals of the transistor: base, collector and emitter. Notice which terminal is set to ground and which terminals have a resistance connected with it. Notice that. So here it is common emitter and is called base bias also. Sometimes it's also called fixed bias. I don't know why the name fixed is given, because the Q point is not fixed, but nomenclature is very tricky in this engineering field. Now you see common base configuration. Which one is connected to ground and which terminals are connected to resistors? The base is connected to ground, not directly but through a voltage source, of course, but there is no resistance here. The resistances go to the other 2 terminals. In case of common emitter, there was no resistance in the emitter terminal, but since we do not need a voltage source in the emitter terminal, the emitter terminal was directly connected to ground. In for the base, in the base terminal we need to supply some voltage, so it is connected to the ground via a source voltage, and the resistances are in the collector and the emitter. So if I talk about the common collector configuration, what you can expect? Anyone can give me an answer? What you can expect in that configuration?
Sir, in place of RC there will be
no RC.
No resistance.
RC could be 0.
There will be no RC. Okay. So that these things are some things which you need to look into and get an idea in order to work with this particular course. So some similarities and differences you need to keep that in mind, so that when it is if you are asked to draw, suddenly you draw the common emitter configuration, in the back of your mind you will remember, even if you don't remember the exact circuit, back of your mind you will remember common emitter means emitter is connected to ground, and biasing would be the other resistances will be there in the other two terminals, and where we are giving the source voltages, that is also important to note. Source voltages are always given in the base and the collector. Note this. In both the configuration, common emitter and common base, source voltages appear in the base and collector, VBB and VCC. There is no VEE. VEE is nowhere there. VBB and VCC. With these two we work. Of course, we can set up some random circuit where we can introduce VEE also, but those are special circuits we have to solve in a particular manner using KVL and KCL. There is always we are solving with KVL and KCL, but for this known configuration there is some typical nature that you need to figure out from observation of these circuits. So now we simply go through it, we try to solve it. Solving is no big task because we know KVL and KCL. So what we have to first find out, we have to find out the this input loop. We first solve the input loop. So in the input loop we try to figure out, see, would you like to get IB, what is easier to find out? So that is what we have to see here. You see here we are not trying to find out IB actually. So that is the most important change that happens. So here it is IB. IB is of course there, but we are not figuring out what is IB because there is no way to do that. There is no way to do that. If we need to find out what is IB, we need to have a resistance here so that we can calculate the potential drop across this resistance and then find out what is the current through that resistance. But there is no resistance in the base terminal. So it is not possible to find out what is IB. But it is not important also because we can figure out what is IE. In this particular situation we can figure out what is IE. These are the small differences we have to keep in mind. Okay, try to observe these small differences in analysis of each of these circuits. So we can figure out IE. How we can figure out IE? Because we can get this voltage VE very easily. We know VBB, we know VBE. So VE is VBB minus VBE. And we can often neglect this VBE also. But it is an approximation, you can keep it, you may neglect it, it depends upon you. So if you are using ideal, then you neglect it. So VE is almost VBB. So what is IE? IE is VE by RE. So once you figure out this VE, IE is nothing but VE by RE. So you get the current IE. Now we know that in a transistor, IB is the smallest current. IB is the smallest current and IB plus IC is IE. We use KCL here. So since IB is very small, we can neglect that and IC is almost equal to IE. There is also a parameter called alpha which relates IC to IE, and this is also given by the manufacturer. So if you are able to find out what is your IE, you can simply multiply with alpha and get IC. So here we have figured out IE and we multiply with alpha, get IC. What would be alpha? Will it be very low or very high? It will be near about unity because IC is almost equal to IE. That we know from the physics of the transistor. From the physics of the transistor, we know that IB is very small. So IC is almost equal to IE but less than IE, of course. So alpha here is almost equal to 1 but less than 1. So typically it is of the range 0.98, 0.99. So you can almost almost in all cases we neglect this alpha. So alpha is not given also. Okay, you don't need to know what is alpha. You simply do this approximation. IC is You have found out IE, IC is simply equal to IE. IC is simply equal to IE. Now when you have found out IC, so this current is known now. What you have to figure out? This voltage VCE you have to figure out. VC is nothing but VCC. So you have this loop there. So VC is VC. So VC you are finding out first. VC is VCC minus ICRC. This VC potential is VCC minus ICRC. VE you already know, previously calculated. So VC is VC minus VE. VCE is VC minus VE. And this is important to remember, at least for 1 year, because in the next semester or in the next year you will be doing the practicals probably, and in the practicals you have to calculate, you have to measure this VCE, and VCE is always measured in this way. We measure VC and we measure VE separately. Please remember this. We measure VC separately, we measure VE separately. The VC to ground we measure, VE to ground we measure with the voltmeter or the multimeter, and then we subtract these two and get VC. We never put the two leads of the multimeter on on collector and emitter terminal. We don't do that. It may damage the transistor if we directly apply the multimeter leads to the collector and the emitter terminals. It can damage the transistor, and then you will wonder why the transistor is not working. So VCE voltage is always measured by in this manner, VC minus VE, in practical purposes. Obviously for calculation you can do anything, but for practical purposes it is measured in this manner. Anyway, so we have revealed all the information, all the different variables of this particular configuration. Now what is important to note in this configuration is that we have a steady Q point. How I can proclaim this steady Q point? How in the analysis I am able to observe that it has a stable Q point? What is the Q point? Q point is nothing but it is the ICQ and VCEQ. So for given values of this VBB, VCE, etc., you will be able to calculate the IC, you will be able to calculate the VCE. So this is the thing. Now you see whether if I change the input, my IC is changing drastically or not. Previously IC was changing 50 times, the times beta, right? IB times beta. Now you see that VBB by RE, so VE is almost equal to VBB divided by RE. So if your RE is quite large, the changes in VBB does not change so much in IE. IE does not change so much, and IC also does not change so much because IC is equal to IE. IC also does not change so much. Okay, so IC, the output side current, is not affected so much by changes in the input side voltage VBB. So you can work out problems, numericals from the book which actually show this by doing some example solutions, but from a theoretical basis I am trying to make you understand this. So I hope that this is clear. So since IC does not change so much, VCE will also not change so much. Okay. There is a relationship between beta and alpha, the beta gain IC by IB and the alpha gain IC by IE. So we have already discussed about that in the earlier class. I will not go into that again, but that relationship comes very easily using the KCL. IE equals to IC plus IB, this relationship we know, and here we simply replace the IB with IC by beta, and then we do some rearrangement of the terms and we get alpha as beta by beta plus 1. So this is the formula. Now common collector configuration, as you have already understood that common collector configuration will have the collector grounded. That means there is of course you know that VBB and VCC will always be there. So the collector grounded means it is grounded via the potential VCC. There is no resistance, that is important. There is no collector resistance. But where would be the resistances now? RB and RE will be the resistances, the base resistance and the emitter resistance. And in this case, one important thing to observe, the output current is IE, not IC. This is the output current, because output is, how do we define output? There is some circuit, some load circuit through which is the output, through which the output current must flow. There is a load circuit. In place of the load circuit, we have a load resistance only in this case, just for analysis purpose. So this is the load resistance, RE is the load resistance now. So the output current is IE, not IC. Okay, so IE is the output current and IE VCE is the Q point. This is the Q point. This is the output characteristics also. IE versus VCE is the output characteristics, not IC versus VCE. Remember this thing. So in this case, if someone asks you to draw the output characteristics of common collector configuration, you have to give IE here, not IC. But my question now is whether the shape of the output characteristics will change or not. Anyone can give me answer? Can anyone give any answer? Previously IC versus VC was something like this, right? So this was IC versus VC. So for various IB we get various such curves, output curves. When the output current changes to IE, will there be any change in the output characteristics? Can anyone answer? Come on.
It will be same, sir.
It will remain same. Who is saying this? Someone says it will remain same. Do others agree? Anyone disagrees with it? So okay, I could have taken a poll, but it is fine. So your answer is correct, absolutely correct. It will remain same. It will remain same because IE is almost equal to IC. There is not much difference. So the output characteristics curve will remain the same. So you can use the same characteristics curve. Okay. Now I leave it to you to solve this circuit. What we have to utilize is another parameter, another gain parameter gamma, which is defined as IE by IB. Gamma is another gain parameter which is IE by IB. How many times the emitter current is greater than the base current. Okay. So you use this. So IE you replace with gamma IB, and you utilize a KVL in the input loop. VBB minus, minus VBE minus gamma IB RE. So you will figure out what is IB. Once you figure out what is IB, you will figure out what is IE. So I am telling this to you, you should do this in pen and paper after the class or at the end of the day. Okay, try to do this, try to solve this by assuming some values of RB, RE, VBB and VCC. Assume on your own. I don't need to give you values. You can do it on your own. So beta I, so now you have solved IB. Once you have solved IB, you can get IE. You assume some value of gamma. I will say what exactly is gamma. That is important here actually. So you have to get that value of gamma. So IE you can figure out. Once you figure out IE, then you can figure out what is the VE potential. VE you will get because VE is nothing but IE/RE. VC you can get because VC is nothing but VCC. There is no resistance here. VC is nothing but VCC. So VCE is VCC minus VE. That is VCE in this particular case. So in every case we are only doing circuit solution. There are two loops we have to solve. That's all. Now important thing here is the analysis of gamma. What is gamma and what is its relation with alpha and beta? So previously we had a relationship of alpha with beta. So there is a relationship of gamma with alpha and beta as well. What is the relationship? So it is very easy. Gamma is nothing but, so let me use another color. Let me use blue only. This is nothing but IB plus IC by IB. So this is 1 plus beta, very simple. IB by IB 1 plus IC by IB is, IC by IB is beta. So beta plus 1, gamma is beta plus 1. So if you know what your gamma, what your beta is, you can find your gamma. And normally beta is of the range of 50, 100, something like that. So does gamma make any difference? Do we need to provide a gamma additionally? We can use that same beta most cases, because beta and gamma like beta and gamma is very close to each other. Gamma is just beta plus 1 and beta is very larger than 1, so it can be approximated as beta only. Gamma can be approximated as beta only, but in order to be specific we can use this. And also we know that we had this relationship alpha equals to beta by beta plus 1, right? So what is beta plus 1? Beta plus 1 is gamma. So what is beta? This implies that beta equals to alpha into gamma. This is a relationship, you can remember. We can also write beta in terms of alpha and get a relationship between gamma and alpha. Okay, so beta, we want to find out relationship between gamma and alpha. So I think beta is, so I have to figure that out. What is the relationship between alpha and beta? Can anyone help me here? So it is alpha minus
beta.
Bolo.
Sir, beta is alpha upon 1 minus alpha.
Something like that. Beta is alpha by 1 minus alpha. Yes. So when beta is alpha by 1 minus alpha, then gamma is 1 plus alpha by 1 minus alpha, and that gives you 1 by 1 minus alpha. Yes.
1 by 1.
Yes. So this is the relationship between gamma and alpha. So this is a central relationship, beta equals to alpha gamma, that you can remember. Gamma equals to 1 plus beta, you can remember, and alpha equals to beta by beta plus 1, beta equals to alpha by 1 minus alpha. So something, one or two relationship, if you remember, you will get the other relationship, and it is very easy to get these relationships. That is nothing to worry. Now we will end this lecture So we have covered 3 configurations so far: common emitter, common base, common collector. The underlying principles for solving these configurations remain the same. This is the underlying principles. We use the fact that VB is 0.7 volt. Sometimes we also neglect it. IC is beta times IB. So when we can find out IB, we use this relationship to get IC. When we cannot find out IB, we use like IC almost equals to IE. So we directly find out IE. Sometimes we also have to find out IE in terms of IB. So these are the central relationships, okay, of the transistor. So you see this part is the coming from the transistor or the BJT, these equations. These are network equations, KVL and KCL. So only by using this thing you can find out, you can solve all the circuits. But these circuits are employed for different uses. Common emitter for switching, common base. In common base, the Q point is very stable, as we noticed. So when the Q point is stable, we can keep the transistor in an active mode of operation. In the active mode, in the active region, we can keep it. In the active region, the work of the transistor is to amplify an input signal. When I am talking about signal normally gives us an idea of a variable signal, not a DC signal. DC signal is also a signal, but when we call it as a signal, we are normally talking about AC signal, something which is varying in nature. So that variation is amplified when we are operating a transistor in the active region. This is just a statement at this point. You will not appreciate how it is amplified at this point. We will come to that. That is also part of our course. Okay. So we will come to that later. But right now just take this as a statement. So common base is used as an amplifier. Common collector is used for impedance matching. So what it exactly is, that is also we don't know. So we will cover that also, I hope to. Let's see. So this is used in impedance matching. So there are these 3 uses of the transistor in different scenarios of use, different configurations in different use cases. Now I have 5 minutes to cover this thing. I will cover this is the idea of biasing circuits. So next from next lecture I will start with DC biasing of transistors. So this what we covered till now, these are also biasing as such. These are also biasing. These are, one is common emitter, one is common base, one is common collector, but there can be many other sorts of biasing. So we come to the idea of biasing. What do we mean by biasing? By biasing we mean to set a particular Q point, operating Q point of the transistor. We set a particular operating Q point of the transistor. This is biasing of the transistor. Now, where to set up that Q point? That is a question. As we have studied till now, it is very obvious to us that Q point does not depend on the transistor. It depends on the circuit parameters, the resistances and the voltages in the circuit that we use. That determines the Q point. That determines the Q point, operating point of the transistor. Transistor itself does not determine the Q point, operating point. The network in which it is employed, that network parameters determine the operating point of the transistor. We saw this by changing the resistances. We saw that we can make hard saturation also. It is also possible to always make it operate in saturation region. to make it come to active region, to make it go to cutoff region. So these are done by the network elements and the network parameters, network sources and the network elements, the resistances, voltage sources, etc. The question is now how to bias or where to keep the Q point. That is the question. Where to keep the Q point. So in case we are operating it in saturation and cutoff, we know where to keep the Q point. But in the case when we wish to keep it in active region, we want to use it as an amplifier, then where to keep the Q point, because there is a whole region, this whole white space you see here is the active region. So you can keep the operating point anywhere, like it can be B, it can be C, it can be D, it can be anywhere else within this white space. Which would be the best one? That we have to understand first. So this is part of the design of a circuit, transistor circuit. This idea is a design idea. Will you keep it at C? Will you keep it at D, or will you keep it at B? Any answer? What would be your best choice? Any answer? Take a random guess.
B.
B. Why in B? Anything? Any substantial?
So because if it shifts a bit, it won't get to another region.
Yeah, true. That is very true. And there is also another reason, that when we want to have it in the active region, we are trying to amplify a signal. So that signal will have some region of expansion. So that signal, suppose it is a voltage signal, so you see, so this is around 8 suppose. So that voltage signal will be riding on this bias 8, but will have a variation of 2, 3, something like that. So it will be AC signal, it will vary like this. That variation, no part of that variation should go into another region. That is also something we need to take care. No part of that input signal variation should go to another region. This point C is very near to saturation, so we don't use it. Also very near to cutoff, we don't use it. This point D is quite far from saturation and cutoff, but it is very close to a region where we go to the maximum power. There is a maximum power curve. So the maximum power is given by the manufacturer. The maximum power is given and the maximum operating current is given. Okay, so with the help of this we can figure out this curve actually. So sorry, if the maximum power is given, the current is also given. This is the maximum operating current, you see IC max, and there is a VCE max. So these are putting the range of this active region. Okay, IC max, VCE max. How this PC max is drawn, that is something you need to understand. Power is nothing but VCE into IC, transistor power. We are not talking about any other power. That power of the power dissipated through a transistor, VCE into IC, that is the power. And when we have two variables in multiplication, this gives us a hyperbolic curve. This we know. We see a hyperbolic curve can be drawn when this is a constant. This is a P max. So this is simply xy equals to constant. That sort of a curve you are able to draw here. So D is very close to this curve. So there is every possibility that even if this bias point is very stable, when we employ an AC signal on top of this bias, then part of that AC signal can go to the this region where it will destroy the transistor then, because it will go above the P max of the transistor. So we have to choose the biasing point or the Q point very judiciously. That is what the whole idea of looking at this particular picture. So once we once we know where we have to put the Q point, we can employ the various different configurations which we will discuss in the next classes. So for today this is all. So you have learnt common emitter, common base, common collector. What is common in them, what is different in them, you should be able to figure out, if you should remember that. So voltages VBB, VCC are always there. So when we have a common terminal, that terminal does not have a resistance, the other two terminals have resistances. This is what is coming out from observation. So you keep that in your memory. So if you are asked to draw a circuit of such configurations, so you can readily draw that. So with that I will end this lecture. I am stopping the screen share. Any other question, anything you need to ask, any doubt?
Sir,
Yeah, Mohit.
sir, can you once again tell that why we don't use VE?
VE, where we don't use VE? So I did
Sir,
not
we
get it.
operate in any common emitter or base. We use VBB and VCC only. You said.
Right. Why we don't use VEE?
Yes, sir.
See, I am not an expert in electronics, but it seems to me that we don't require it. So with only VBB and VCC we can modify the IB and the IC as we need. Okay, so this would be my answer, but maybe an expert in electronics can give a better answer. But while I have prepared this subject for you also, when I was preparing also, so during my times as UG, and I did not find any, like, it did not come to my mind that VE can serve any additional purpose. So it will be an extra additional voltage source to keep in the circuit. So unnecessary usage of a resource probably. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay then. So okay, so we'll meet again tomorrow, and we'll see more circuits, more biasing circuits. Okay, goodbye now.